On Tuesday, voters in the U.S. state of Alabama would choose their next senator. And on Friday night, the Republican candidate got a boost from the U.S. president. Donald Trump endorsed candidate Roy Moore at a rally at Pensacola, Florida, just a short distance from Alabama. The endorsement is not without controversy. Several women have accused Roy Moore of sexual misconduct and assault. Caitlin Collins has the latest.
Well, though the White House has said repeatedly that President Trump would not come to Alabama and campaign for Roy Moore ahead of that Senate election on Tuesday that is highly contested, he did the next best thing when he came to a campaign-style rally in Pensacola, Florida, and told an arena filled with Alabama residents to get out and vote for Roy Moore. Not only did he endorse him in person, as he has done on Twitter, the president also hit his Democratic opponent in that race, Doug Jones, claiming that he's weak on crime and that if he made it to Washington, he would be Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi's puppet.
We can't afford to have a liberal Democrat who is completely controlled by Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. We can't do it. Can't do it. His name is Jones, and he's their total puppet, and everybody knows it. He will never, ever vote for us. We need somebody in that Senate seat who will vote for our Make America Great Again agenda, which involves tough on crime, strong on borders, strong on immigration. So get out and vote for Roy Moore. Do it. Do it. Do it.
Now, though the White House has said the president finds the allegations made against Roy Moore troubling and concerning, and that if they're true, Roy Moore should step aside, we heard from the president himself on some of those allegations during his rally. He brought up Beverly Nelson, the woman who says she was 16 years old when Roy Moore assaulted her, and as part of her proof, she showed where he signed her yearbook. Now, the Moore campaign has said that it was a forgery and that was not his signature. And when Nelson said on Friday that she had written the date and the location underneath his signature, the Moore campaign took that as an opportunity to say that she was lying and had admitted that it was a forgery. President Trump brought that up on the stage behind me here in Pensacola, mocking Beverly Nelson over that. So we heard from the president himself on what he thinks of that accuser. We know that sources have said privately he doubts the women who've accused Roy Moore, comparing it to his own situation in the presidential election last year when he too was accused of sexual assault by multiple women. So though the White House said that President Trump would not campaign for Roy Moore, he essentially did the next best thing tonight when he said to get out and vote for Roy Moore.
Caitlin Collins there. Well, U.S. President Trump has just finished speaking at the opening of America's newest civil rights museum. Mr. Trump toured the museum in Mississippi before paying tribute to Americans who fought for racial justice.
The Civil Rights Museum records the oppression, cruelty, and injustice inflicted on the African American community, the fight to end slavery, to break down Jim Crow, to end segregation, to gain the right to vote, and to achieve the sacred birthright of equality. Here, that's big stuff. That's big stuff. Those are very big phrases, very big words.
More than 100 protesters gathered outside to denounce the president's visit as the height of hypocrisy. And many top civil rights leaders chose to stay away, among them Congressman and civil rights icon John Lewis, who has called Trump's visit a mockery of the movement. Well, our Athena Jones is outside the museum and joins us now live. Of course, Athena, this is a man who questioned the legitimacy of America's first African-American president. Just give us a sense of how this visit played out there.
Hi, Lynda. Well, the visit itself was relatively short. The president spent about 40 minutes touring the museum, seeing several exhibits highlighting episodes like the Freedom Riders who helped desegregate interstate buses in the 60s. He also saw an exhibit on Medgar Evers, a civil rights activist who was assassinated right here in Jackson in 1963. And then he delivered about 10 minutes of remarks to the folks gathered inside, so a much smaller group than you see behind me. He has not taking part in this larger fanfare and the actual ribbon cutting ceremony. He has already, in fact, departed on his way back to Florida. And part of the reason may be the protests and the criticism that greeted his inclusion in today's festivities. You mentioned John Lewis, Congressman Lewis, also a U.S. Congressman Benny Thompson, who's from here in Mississippi. Both of them are on the program. In fact, they're still listed on the program, but decided not to attend to protest Trump's attendance. You had Mississippi Democrats saying that the governor should have rescinded his invitation. And part of the reason for that, Lynda, is that people look at facts like the fact that the president was part of the birther movement, one of the original birthers, questioning the legitimacy of the nation's first black president, but also the fact that he has endorsed a Senate candidate in Alabama, Roy Moore, who, when asked when America was last great, talked about the period including slavery. He said back when families were more united, even though we had slavery. There are a long list of criticisms the president's critics will spell out for you. One more, though, is this idea of his voter integrity commission the president has set up. Many critics see that as a commission to suppress voting. And so they take issue with the words you just played from the president talking about the fight to end slavery, to gain the right to vote, and say, look, his civil rights record doesn't match that. Lynda?
All right, Athena Jones for us in Jackson, Mississippi, on what was a pretty controversial visit there by the president. Thank you very much. We're going to take a quick break, but stay with us right here on CNN.